Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon podcast. I am your host, Perry, and let me tell you, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy to be here recording with you on a Monday evening, because that's just kind of how this this weekend has gone, between a snow day on Friday, between a sick wife throughout the weekend, and my back acting up. I'm finally here, and I'm happy that you're here, and I've got 2 ryes that I'm going to be reviewing for you later in this episode. But if you haven't yet, subscribe to the show, of course. Leave a 5-star rating and review, and support the show on patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. And tell your friends about the show as well. We are rounding out the year here very soon. This is our, third to last episode of the year. Holy moly. Happened just all of a sudden. But I don't know, man. I'm trying to like gather myself in some ways, because my brain is fried. I'm not going to talk too much about it, because I already talked to Patreon about it, and I don't want to retread some things. So if you want to find out about that, hit the $5 and up tier for that information. But I kick off every episode of the podcast with a segment known as Flying Blind, and I'm doing that right here, right now, as I normally do. It's where I blind somebody who's on the show with a pour, or I try something I haven't had in a while, or something I've never had before. And I looked over to my left here, and I saw a sample bottle. I've got a couple of sample bottles over here. But one in particular that has caught my eye. And it's slightly fuller than the one that is sitting next to it. The label is facing away from me. Before I hit the record button, thought, do I want to surprise myself? Do I want to truly blind myself with what this is? And I thought, yes, I do. So I'm going to reach over, and I'm going to grab this bottle. I genuinely don't know what it is, and whatever it is, I'm going to have a pour of it. It could be horrible. It could be maybe my pour of the year. I don't know. We're going to find out. Buzzard's Roost and Buzzador's Select, June 2025 single barrel rye. It's a double oak. Well, it's not particularly showing up well on the camera. I apologize. It's got one of those white labels. Let me see what this other sample is, too. Old Fitz Bottled and Bond 2022 edition from fall of that year, 19-year-old. We're going to go with the Buzzard's Roost. How's that sound? It's a rye episode. We're in rye season. You know. Did I say the age? Not sure if I did, but 115 proof. Actually, a pretty nice color. I don't know what to say about this beyond that it smells like double oaked rye. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not bad. So, cheers. It is, to quote a particular gentleman, very rye. I do not mind that. Okay, I just I'm not gonna play any on the episode, but I just opened a YouTube for a second, and I'm gonna show it to I'm gonna show it on the video version. But one of my recommended videos was from a channel called Big Time Influencer. This video is from 2 weeks ago. The title of the video is Cutwater Sucks, and what he's talking about is the pre-made cocktail. This guy looks to be like in his, I don't know, mid to late 60s, maybe early 70s. He has 1.14 thousand subscribers, and this video has 18,000 views. It was posted 2 weeks ago. Love the disgust with which you say Cutwater. Saying Cutwater like a slur is my new thing. Oh. Okay, I'm holding on to this. What it doesn't matter what I was. It doesn't matter what I was going to look up. I was going to look up something else, but I'm getting distracted. I apologize. There's a real strong like mint and pepper note on the nose, like black pepper on the nose for this Buzzard's Roost rye. Actually, I mean, really quite a good rye. I think what might have been misconstrued when I pulled that sample out was disappointment. And it wasn't. It was just like, I didn't realize that was what I was going to grab when I did. But it's a really good rye. But it is, in fact, very rye. So, let's talk about what I've been drinking recently. Because I haven't seen you all in a while. The last time I recorded was, let's see. 10 days ago. And a lot has happened in the past 10 days. But to be fair, though, 3 of those days were basically me just trying to get through it. So there wasn't a lot that happened in that time. But I did go to hang out with Chad over at Rare Character for a little while. Kyle Weipert came to hang out too. And for the first time, Papa Ritter stopped by as well. And he got to try some stuff from the barrel for the first time ever. I know I said for the first time twice, but I apologize. He got to try some stuff from the barrel at Rare Character with Chad and Kyle and new friends to me, Ari and Drew, who were awesome. Got to talk baseball for a little bit, which was nice. And just a spectacularly fun time. A really good Sunday afternoon. Beyond that, there's one, and I bring him up every year because he is significant in my life, and the pour is significant in my life. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in real time because Yeah, just give me a second. Also, oh jeez, sorry about my back. Ugh. Oh. Let me look this. Make sure I got this right. Yeah. December 9th, 2018. I lost a very good friend of mine, a close musical collaborator, Billy Thomas. And he and I, back in the early days of my bourbon journey, and I'm talking about before the podcast ever started too. He and I shared a deep love for Knob Creek Small Batch. But December 9th, 2018, after a massive heart attack at 28 years old, Billy passed away. And I, last week, with Papa Ritter, finished the bottle of Knob Creek Small Batch 9-year that I've been holding on to for, a long time. This is still that, and you can kind of hear the crinkly paper. I don't even really know exactly when this is from. There's a big 13, there's a big 14 on the bottom of the bottle. But I have had a pour out of this bottle every year since Billy passed. And it was finally at the point where it needed to be finished. And so last week, Dad and I finished the bottle on the anniversary of Billy's passing. And so I will continue to drink Knob Creek Small Batch 9-year 100 proof every year on the anniversary of Billy's passing. But this year was a little different because and as I always say, I miss him greatly, even if he wasn't a bourbon guy. He and I were still able to share bourbon together while we were playing music, which is still a massively important part of my life, too. But there you go, man. Cheers, Billy. Miss you, brother. Cherish those moments, you know? Well, let's move on, shall we? We're doing 2 reviews this week. 2 ryes. Hurst Knoll Rye the new cocktail rye from Rare Character, and the Seelbach's Christmas rye, just in time for Christmas. Because why not, man? They're both basically in like the exact same bottle, just different set dressing, I suppose. Different proofs. One of them is non-age stated, I believe, unless there is something that has. Oh, wait! I was wrong. Seelbach's Private Reserve Christmas Rye, 7 years old. And 107.6 proof. It's a 95.5 Indiana rye. And it is finished in Amberana and maple barrels. Not sure exactly how long, but the finishing is... We'll talk about the finishing later. But on the flip side, we have the Hurst Knoll Kentucky straight rye whiskey at 7 years and 101 proof. Very cool that they're both 7 years old. But they do both exist to either be sipped neat or be consumed in a cocktail. Hurst Knoll specifically, though, does provide the distinct purpose of being used in cocktails. So at the end of the episode, after the credits roll, I guess not exactly, Patreon is going to get a slight little bit of bonus content where I try both of these in a smoked old-fashioned. We're going to see which one comes out on top. So if you want to check that out, again, patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. $5 and up is where you get the bonus content. So we are not really comparing these side by side, but more so doing these as a couple different reviews here on this week's episode of the podcast. Jeez. That Christmas rye cork is in there. Does this count as our Christmas episode, by the way? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what to do for the Christmas episode next week. I have my ideas, but we'll figure it out. So let's get down to it. I also wanted to highlight the price differences as well before we go too much further. The Hurst Knoll is $65. And the Seelbach's rye, Christmas rye, is $50. Just so you know. We're going to start with the Hurst Knoll because it's unfinished, and I thought maybe it would be better for my palate to not go right into Amberana and maple and then try to taste unfinished rye. Might be a little more difficult, But the jury's still out on that. Who's to say? Cherry, pine, baked bread, baked bread. I don't know why I hit the B so hard there at first. I apologize. Can't stop thinking about big time influencer. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm Very excited to check out some of his content, especially why Cutwater sucks. So there's a slight citrusy note on the Hurst Knoll too that I think is gonna work particularly well in this this smoked old fashioned that we're gonna be doing for Patreon here at the end of the episode. A little bit of brown sugar too. Hints of cinnamon. Lots of cheers. It is where the Buzzard's Roost was so rye forward. This is definitely still identifiable as a rye whiskey. But it's much more balanced. I don't know the mash bill on this, and I'm not going to bother Chad. But it definitely doesn't quite feel like it's in the 95.5 range. Kind of feels more like 65 to 75. It's much sweeter. Like I seem to be picking up on more corn on the palate. Which I think is, if you're looking at it objectively through the lens of trying to make it perform as a cocktail rye, probably is better because it gives it more flexibility, right? If you're just going with a 95.5 rye, you've got like spirit forward cocktails, you've got the Manhattan, and like that's pretty much it. It doesn't necessarily like allow it to, and I mean, this is, you know, my own personal way of thinking about it. Also, talking about this in its own vacuum without talking about the Christmas rye too, which we'll get to in a second. But it doesn't necessarily, you know, give it room if there is a 95.5 rye component to benefit from the sweetness that corn does impart with something that has more flexibility with, you know, say 65%, 75% in a mash bill for a rye whiskey. That's not to say, too, that there aren't, like, traditional rye notes on there, because there definitely are, but I think that they're more well-balanced with some of the top notes, I guess, some of the sweeter notes that allow it to kind of sing in a way. This is a very like fun rye. And I don't want to like do all of this kind of like speculation on lower rye ryes, which I don't even know if that's exactly what this is. That's just kind of how it's reading to me on my palate right now. But doing all of this without, and I mean, I can't even fully give it that with the Christmas rye being finished, but I'm pretty familiar with a 95.5 rye. I mean, at this point in my journey. All that being said, though, let's get it twisted. Let's change things up a little bit, and let's move into Seelbach's Christmas. Oh, you know what I should probably do? I don't even know if I'm going to fully give these like scores. I genuinely don't know. No, I am. I am going to. But I am going to give the Hurst Knoll a score before I get into the Christmas ride, just in case that tricky little Amberana sneaks in and I'm not able to taste anything but Amberana after the fact. So here we go. Oh, I got to tell you what my scoring system is. Nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5. Final score is out of 20. And then I let you know whether or not you should buy one. That's how that works, I suppose. Nose, I think, is really, really close to what you would identify as a bourbon drinker's rye. I tend to identify myself less as that and more as just like somebody who really enjoys rye whiskey. With that in mind, though, I can see this being for people who lean more as like bourbon drinkers and want to dip their toe into rye. But also, I know what the purpose of this is, and it is to allow cocktail makers to have the flexibility to put it into a variety of different cocktails. I think it's quite robust. I think it can really cut through too, especially if you're trying to get a spirit-forward cocktail on your menu or in the mix. I am going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think the palate is fantastic, though. That's where this shines for me. It's a 4 out of 5. It is bold and really, really. It's a 4.5. It's giving me such a broad spectrum of flavors that I almost don't know where else it could. Maybe slightly more in the traditional rye, but even then, it would be hard to sacrifice some of like the sweeter aspects of it. But I think it's very, very good for what it is. Finish dips off a little quickly. I think that's just a factor of the proof. But even still, it's not terrible. It's just what it is. I like it a lot. It's a 3.5 for me there. And then a price at $65. I think you can get a lot of value out of this. Presentation is great. A whiskey on its own is phenomenal. You're going to get a lot of value out of this and a lot of mileage, whether you are actually using it in a cocktail or you're giving yourself a neat pour. One way or another, it's a 4 on the value for me, or price, I guess. I go back and forth between whether or not that should be called value or price at 64 or in that final category. So 3.5, 4.5, 3.5, and then 4. So overall, 15.5 for me on this one. I mean, Jeez. I don't mean to get choked up, but it's a recommend. Check this one out. Let's move on to the Seelbach's Christmas Rye. Insane color, even though it is a finished rye whiskey. Now, Amberana does have a distinct cologne note to it, but it is being lifted by the maple in this finishing process. It's being tamed, it's being sweetened, and I do think that rye helps to it helps to strengthen whatever good qualities Amberana presents. And I mean that in the nicest way, because I think that we are still trying to evaluate where Amberana should be in the whiskey world. All that being said, though, this is a very practical application and one that works sufficiently well. I love the way that this nose presents itself, and it makes me so expressly go to Christmas. There is a big rosemary and cherry note that comes out once I stop trying to pick apart the components of where everything is in here. And it works really well. I mean, y'all at Seelbach's, you kind of seem to know what you're doing. So I'll drink to that. Spicy, gingery, cinnamony. Ooh. Bit of toast. I mean, I can't pin down exactly what it is, but there really does feel like something that has been caramelized on that palate. And it's so interesting. It's so funny because like not to just go, it's Christmas rye, but I mean, I don't know what else to say, man. Like, it's a very Christmas rye, and it feels sugary too. Like, it feels like a treat, which is so fun in a way that feels nostalgic. And I think that beyond like the treat that alcohol is, and I think this is something important that we don't talk about with drinking alcohol, but it is a treat, right? That we set aside calories in our diet for something that is not food when we have a drink. But when we have something that, even when it is whiskey, but it does also hit the nostalgic notes of going to grandma's house or opening presents on Christmas Day or reminding yourself of what it was like when you didn't have to pay bills or you freely got to open presents. There's something about it that in that moment, it really does feel like there's something special with just pouring this drink. And I think that the Seelbach's Christmas Rye does it so successfully that it should be celebrated for that. Not just beyond the fact that, or not separated from the fact that it is a phenomenal product, but with all that kind of tied together. Now, that being said, though, when I go to do my actual review, I'm not going to factor in nostalgia into value, because that's not how this works. But I have to say that if you if you want a shock of, man, this tastes like this tastes like the alcohol version of what my childhood was like in a Glencairn. This is the rye whiskey for you. I just want to put on Muppets Christmas Carol. Man. All right, nose, palate, finish, and price. Nose. These scores are going to be weirdly similar. 3.5. Palate's a 4.5. I think it. No, Palate's a 5. I think Palate does everything it goes. It sets out to do. I think the finish is a 4. I think the finish makes you want to drink more and more of it, honestly. Oh, and you know what? Oh, I can't wait for this to be my my Santa whiskey pick. Already figured that one out. There we go. Oh, this whiskey has now set itself up to be the Wild Turkey 101 and the Rare Bird. The Rare Bird tagged pairing of Thanksgiving to what this equivalent would be on Christmas. But there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to set this out as Santa's little treat for when he stops by on Christmas Eve. Yeah, 3.5 on the nose, 5 on the palate. Finish, it goes a little artificially sugary, but that's just kind of a personal note. But other than that, it does make me want to keep drinking it. It's a 4. $50 though for this, an unbelievably festive product that also could be gifted to people. 5 out of 5. I don't know what else to say. It's so good. It does everything it's supposed to. Y'all nailed it. Fantastic. Really, really just beautiful. Beautiful rye whiskey. No more notes. I have no more notes. I can't wait to try this in the smoked old fashioned for Patreon. Final score out of 20. 3.5, 5, 4, and 5, 10, 17.5 out of 20. That's a heck of a score, y'all. Yeah. No complaints there, but it is now time for us to move into the segment of the show known as Barrel Rings, which is a segment that you can actually be a part of by texting into the show or sending us a voicemail. We got a hotline number for that. It's 859-428-8253. All you have to do is dial it from your mobile device or if anybody who has a home phone still, I mean, I assume that number works for you. It'd be surprising if you still had a landline, and B, if you dialed it and it didn't work. Like, I don't know what to say about that. But we don't have any voicemails this week, but we do have 2 text messages. The first one comes from our buddy W. Leb, who says, "Greetings, Perry. Earlier in the year, I had brought up the subject of the Whistlepig Distillery in Vermont. The owner of Whistlepig bowed out of the company a couple of years back. Interesting story. I read about it on Wikipedia. It goes into quite a bit of detail about the owner, worth a read. Oddly, he ended up buying the college campus where I went to school for 4 years, Green Mountain College in Poultney, Vermont. The Hogsworth bottle I sent you pictures of is a project of his post Whistlepig. In the store, I was impressed with the list that made up the blend. I was pleasantly surprised. $46. You may or may not have already tried this, but if not, I would be happy to send you a little sample. It reminds me of another bourbon, but I can't put my finger on it. Thanks. I have not heard of this before. Video viewers, you are seeing the bottle image right now. Bourbon, whiskey, and Armagnac, average age 9.3 years. Kind of hard to make out the ABV. But there's a 2019 bourbon from Tennessee, another 2019 bourbon from Minnesota, a 2013 Armagnac, a 2011 Armagnac, and a 1982 Armagnac that's 42 years old. Holy moly. W. Leb, I would love to try this. It doesn't, of course, qualify as bourbon. And it doesn't even qualify as like distilled spirit specialty, I think is what it's actually called. Somewhere in between, it's, blended spirits. But I would absolutely love to try this. If you or not just talking about you, W. Leb, but anybody who's listening to this would like to send samples or anything to our P.O. Box. We have one of those. It's P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky 40522. That P.O. Box is currently open for now. So go check it out. Such an interesting blend. I have for a long time said how much I love Armagnac, and B, that if if bourbon were to disappear, bourbon and rye were to disappear from the spirits landscape, I would prefer to drink Armagnac over anything else out there. I think it's an amazing spirit. It's my preferred one, otherwise. All right. Next up, we have from Tony Bag of Donuts. He says, incoming Campari rant. Hello, Timbip. I was just raging in my brain and was going to send this to Perry, but this should be heard by you all. What the HE double hockey sticks is going on at Wilderness Trail, Campari is shoving countless LEs at obnoxious prices down our throats from Wild Turkey while Wilderness Trail gives us squat. They're releasing the 10-year again at the distillery only, same as 2 years ago. You've had 2 more years to put out a good-sized release and distribute it, even if it were Kentucky only. So where is it? One more release of 6-year, one release of 6-year, one release of 8-year, and one release of 7-year rye. Meanwhile, the single barrels are still 4-year and 5 years old. Same as when I first bought one in 2018. Wilderness Trail is the redheaded stepchild at Campari. And while I certainly don't want to pay the Campari prices, I have to wonder where the heck their whiskey is going. Thanks for everything. I think this is a really interesting take. And I want to look at this from a couple of different aspects. The first of which is do we want the over corporatization of some of our smaller distilleries, even though they have been bought up by these larger corporations? Sorry. And I think like within that mindset comes the good with the bad. Okay? So what Tony is advocating here for here is that we get a broader release of the 10-year Wilderness Trail, not just at the level of the not just at the distillery level, but if it were to go out to, big box retailers or, not necessarily even big box retailers, but just anywhere across the nation wherever Wilderness Trail can be found. So with that in mind, we have to look at it in a couple of ways. The first one, I think, is how are some of the limited releases being treated from Campari products? And partially, if we'll use Wild Turkey as an example, because I don't know what else we could use, especially from Kentucky bourbon. Let's focus on 2 different limited releases. Let's focus on Russell's 13 and Master's Keep. Russell's 13 was initially priced pretty affordably, right? $150 at retail. It's not that you could get it everywhere, but if you did find it, it was pretty affordable. If it was at a big box retail store. The other side of that is Master's Keep, which was pretty widely available in most markets for a long time until it was scaled up in its price, and then it became unaffordable for a lot of people. So with something like Wilderness Trail that has a pretty large, and I don't mean this in a bad sense, but a fairly large scale like cult following in terms of like people who seek out their limited releases, where do you want that to go? Especially with a company like Campari. Do you want them to scale it up so high that it is unaffordable, but you can get it locally? Or do you want them to have a bunch of limited releases that you never see? Like I think it's one of those truly double-edged swords that I also think is like completely fair when you're talking about like they have that aged product on site, but also like we don't know what some of that product is being used for as well. Some of it could be going into their small batch stuff. How much of it, I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say one way or another. I'm not their barrel inventory manager. You know, like that stuff is not something that I have firsthand knowledge of. I don't even have third-hand knowledge of because nobody tells me that kind of stuff. But what I am talking about is just like from a top-down perspective, like what do you really want that to look like? You know, like I think that if we are trying to preserve what is ostensibly the small craft distillery, even if they are backed by, and I think that is something that we overlooked when Wilderness Trail did get daddy dollars from Campari. They somehow have still managed to maintain their reputation as the small guy. Do we really want this large corporate oversight to come in and go, well, we're going to push out all of this product onto the shelf so that you are spread thin and you're not able to do what you want to do? Distillery only releases are a pretty special thing these days. And it's kind of exciting that they're still able to do that with a 10-year-old release. The 10-year-old release that happened the first time is not necessarily the same 10-year-old release that just happened this past weekend. Like, those two distillates are different. They learned something between those two processes. So I think that we have to talk about, like, you know, how much is going into the bottle from that time period into now, and also like what we are demanding as consumers versus what what corporations are demanding of us as consumers. Like we should be wanting the best product possible, whereas corporations think that we should just eat up whatever they give us, right? Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, I think that Wilderness Trail is being is doing the best that they should be, and is giving us the best that they possibly can under the given circumstances. And they probably, and I don't have a stake in it one way or another. That's the other part of it too. But we likely are not going to see a nationwide release of Wilderness Trail 10-year-old bourbon unless Campari puts out a mandate to them. But again, I think that, them being bought out by Campari was not them being told that, they had to put out product at a certain rate. I think it was an investment in Pat and Shane to continue doing what they were doing. It's just, Wilderness Trail is not equal to Wild Turkey. It's they're just two different entities, like, I hope that makes sense. I feel like I talked around a bunch of different points, but there you go. I hope. I understand the single barrel issues as well, but I still think that they have to hold on to some of the special stuff for these big releases as well. I don't know. I'm also not trying to defend them in terms of like how they make business decisions. I'm not getting a cut one way or another. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Take it up with them. I appreciate the rant. I really like this rant. It's a good way to look at the way that small distilleries are operating these days, especially if they have been given corporate money. It's very different. It really is. Even just from 10 years ago in the bourbon industry. But anyway, okay. All right. My throat's getting scratchy. We got to move on to tips and bits. It's a segment of the show where I recommend things that I want you to check out, to watch, read, listen to, visit, enjoy, that I have also enjoyed, that I think will elevate your life. But, either way, I just check it out. There's a couple of things I want to recommend this week. The first one is my new favorite gas station that I think is top tier and amazing, but has been recommended to me for a long time. But we have a bunch of locations in Lexington now, finally, and I keep going back to them, and I love them. I finally signed up for rewards recently, but that's Casey's. CASEY''S. I have to fix my pant leg. I'm sorry. They're mostly, I guess, like Midwest and now into the South, but they're famous for their breakfast pizza. I recently discovered how good their chicken sandwich is. Yes, Their chicken sandwich is phenomenal. They also have really good Louisiana style, or I guess it's New Orleans style, kettle cooked chips. They're very close to the Zapp's voodoo chips. So if you know those and you're near Casey's, they're basically the same. I need to do a 1-to-1 test on them, see how they taste side by side, and see if they are exactly the same. But we'll figure that out. And then my other one, whom I just recently discovered, and I'm just kind of diving into his content. I don't even actually know his name. I'm just going by his what he's known by in general terms. But I've been enjoying watching his series on eating like a president. But it's called Cooking with Congress. And I've watched a bunch of his videos where he eats like a bunch of different presidents. And it's really fun and enjoyable. And I think you would also enjoy it. And go check that out. And that's it. And I hope you've enjoyed this video or this episode or whatever the heck, however you've consumed this week's episode. It's 411 of This Is My Bourbon podcast. If you want to get more of this stuff and you want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can get access to our Discord. I'm over there as much as I can. But from $5 and up a month, you can get bonus content every single daggum week. You can also follow the show on social media at My Bourbon Pod. You can follow me personally at pritter1792. You can send questions or comments to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. You can also send stuff to our P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky, 40522. You can send barrel rings to 859-428-8253. It's our hotline where I'll listen to things that you have questions or comments about. You can also send text messages to that number as well. And last but not least, send a 5-star rating and review to your podcast app of choice, and we'll check it out here on the show. I believe that there is nothing new here. Nope, nothing new. That's all good. Patreon's got bonus content coming up here soon, as I'm done here with the main episode. But behind the paywall, they got stuff. But next week, I don't know. Maybe the new Willet small batch, potentially. We'll find out. Until then, though, I'll see you real soon. Until then, though, I said that twice. I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast. Bye.